Yes, I'm old enough to be a doctor. So this title is actually my second title. The first one they tossed. We could talk about what it was. I thought it would get more people in the room. So basically, since the 1970s, we've been asked to eat less and exercise more. And today, Americans are dieting more and at least attempting to exercise more than ever before in human history. All right? 3/4 of all women, 1/4 of all men are on a diet. And I put diet in parentheses to remind us that a diet is defined as what a person, animal, or community habitually eats. It's not this temporary loathing, deprivation, starvation, all to fit into a pant size or dress size lower than where you're at. Okay, it's a permanent thing. What you've been eating this past week, that's your diet, for better or worse. So we spend more than $60 billion each year on exercise equipment, and that continues to grow. And despite all of this, you know, we've learned that 2/3 of us on a diet are gaining more weight than when we even started. In fact, according to the Journal of the American Medical Association, has told us now that 68% of Americans are either overweight or obese. And we know now that dietary factors are the single most significant risk factor for disability and premature death. So it's not just about obesity here. It's not just blood pressure, cholesterol, coronary disease, diabetes, but also consider non-alcoholic fatty liver disease that affects 1 in 3 American adults, polycystic ovarian syndrome that affects 10% of women, cancer of various subtypes, and then lastly, dementia, early onset dementia. Yep, even that. They've all been linked, not to obesity because obesity is the cause, but obesity is a signal to underlying diseases such as these. And what links them all together is something called insulin resistance. It is basically your body's inefficient use of the hormone insulin. And yes, it's the diabetes hormone too. But it's a lot more than that. And insulin resistance, in fact, is the single greatest risk factor for coronary artery disease today. In fact, it's responsible for nearly half of heart attacks annually. If you look back at conventional wisdom over the past 40 years or so, we hear things like everything about weight management is all about energy balance. If you want to lose weight, eat less, exercise more. That's certainly what I learned in medical school. If you want to lose weight, create a calorie deficit, just out of thin air. And then 500 calories less a day, in 1 week you lose a pound. And then lastly, my favorite, everything in moderation. Oh, I don't like that. But if you take all 4 of those things together, it really boils down to a calorie being a calorie. With that, inherent in the definition is a calorie balance, right? Eat less, exercise more if you want to lose weight. That's what we're promised. And the food industry loves that we think that. Not to pick on Coke, they're all pretty bad, but Coca-Cola had a campaign during the Super Bowl last year about this one common sense fact that all calories matter no matter where they come from. So drink responsibly, right? Sure, you can have 140 calorie Coca-Cola, just make sure you consume 140 calories less of something else. I don't know, broccoli, kale, fish, wild rice, you name it. You know, the idea that you can eat more junk food, just eat less healthy food to make up the difference. As long as that magical calorie number, whatever it is based on your age and energy expenditure, as long as you don't exceed that, right? That obviously doesn't make sense. Maybe we've been paying attention to calories as a number and paying less respect to the quality of calories we're consuming. Let's look at this more objectively. The average American, it's a fact, has consumed about 430 calories more than their daily allotment for the past 40 years. So if you do the math, the average American today should weigh about 1.7 tons. That's obviously not the case. How much weight would you need to accumulate, or would you accumulate if you overate by 20 calories a day for 10 years? Well, you'd gain 21 pounds. All right, that would be 3 bites of an apple, a sip of Pepsi. I mean, you could be the world record holder in calorie counting and have the best app, the best treadmill, the most accurate reading. At the end of the day, you're just guessing. There's no way you can maintain that day in, day out. And how much exercise does it take to burn off? You know, the opposite end, burn it off, right? 2 Oreo cookies would take a 150-pound female more than an hour of walking at a leisurely pace for 45 minutes at a brisk pace. So how much time would you really have in a given day to burn off your 2,000 calories that you consume? It's impossible. It's impossible. And besides, look in the animal kingdom. There's no obese animals, right? There's no obese animals. How do they do it? They don't have access to mirrors. They don't have spouses telling them that they look a little more full in their outfit, right? So how is it that they can do it? And why is this a modern problem? This wasn't an issue 100 years ago. So why are we having such trouble today? So you might say, well, if it's not calories, then what could it be? So we'll talk about that in a minute. First, I want to show you that the obesity prevalence here since the 70s has more than tripled. And demographic gaining weight the fastest is our kids. Are you going to blame a 6-year-old on being a glutton and a sloth? Or is there something more? Maybe biology works like biology. Maybe it doesn't work like math. And paralleling this is the fact that our diabetes rates since the 70s have more than quintupled. We have kids injecting themselves with insulin 3 to 4 times a day. When I was in medical school, there was a term for that. It's called MODY, or mature onset diabetes of the young. We've since kind of ditched that term because it's becoming so commonplace for kids to be diabetic. It's no longer this rare disease of adulthood. And the scariest thing is we have no long-term data to know what's going to happen to these kids. Sure, you get diabetes in your 40s, 50s, 60s. We kind of know the spectrum. But you get it in your teen years or even younger, that's a big problem. Who are our first responders going to be one day when they can't even take care of themselves? So, looming over all this data, of course, is the fact that 40 years of conventional wisdom, heart disease is still the number 1 killer in the United States, by far. So, if it's not calorie balance, then what is it, right? Well, it's insulin. Insulin is, yes, the diabetes hormone, but it's also the fat storage hormone. It tells the calories where to go. You need only so much insulin in a given day to basically shunt those calories to your muscle, to your vital organs such as your brain, and all the excess goes to fat storage. All of it, to be stored for later. The problem is, in a world where you can eat a 3-course dinner at a gas station, there is no later. You just keep packing on the pounds and not understanding why, because you're sticking 100-calorie, packets of Oreos or the fruit in a cup, right? Insulin diverts the energy to body use and puts it right in fat storage. And I'm going to go over that right here in a kind of little cartoon. So say you consume 2,000 calories and you expend 2,000 calories a day. You're in perfect balance, your body's happy and satiated, you haven't gained weight, you haven't lost weight. But now I'm going to walk behind you all day and inject you with exogenous insulin. All right? Insulin your body's not making. Every time you take a bite of food, just for a day. So you eat your 2,000 calories, but I injected you with insulin. 500 calories straight off the top goes right to fat storage, like the federal income tax does with our paychecks, right? It's money you earn, but you don't actually see it. So now you're left in this scenario where you've eaten 2,000 calories, but your body only sees 1,500. Your muscles, your brain, the other 500 went to fat storage. They want 2,000. So what's going to happen? You're going to interpret this. Your body will interpret this as starvation. You know you're not starving, and you know your next meal's coming. Your body doesn't. It's nutritionally starved. So you're going to be thinking about food. You're going to lay around the house. You're going to be tired. You're laying on your work day. I can't exercise. I haven't had any energy. So what are you going to do? Well, you can't will away hunger any more than you can will away being thirsty. So it's not willpower. So you have to eat 500 calories more, and you eventually will. And usually that's, if you try to hold off long enough, you'll overconsume. You'll probably eat 600, 700, 800 calories more because you'll be that hungry. So now you're up to 2,500 calories for the day. Again, I gave you more insulin, so you're up to 600 there of fat storage, and you're still not quite right. And this is the time when you go to your doctor eventually. It might not be weeks, it might not be months, it might be years. And you say, Doc, I don't get it. I'm tired, I'm gaining weight, I have no energy, what's wrong? And he or she will look at you and say, well, I know what's wrong. You're a glutton and a sloth. You need to exercise more and eat less. That's what we'll be told, I guarantee. And he or she is right. But it's not because you chose to. It's not even because you wanted to. It's because you have to. It is a biochemical drive, because of insulin, that is causing this overeating behavior. And what's worse is at the same time, your body is nutritionally starving. So the cravings never go away. And that also means that the calories you eat, your body's going to work tirelessly to ensure it goes to fat storage and not for any meaningful use. So the question should be, how can I eat in a way that blunts my blood sugar response? Because after all, the higher the blood sugar, the higher the insulin levels, the more the fat storage. Okay? When a patient with diabetes has a sugar of 300, they give themselves insulin, it goes down to 100. Do you ever think, where do those 200 milligrams per deciliter of sugar go? They don't evaporate, they go to fat. That's why if you're an insulin-dependent diabetic, it'll be that much harder. But if you're on pills or diet controlled, there's still a lot of hope. And yes, you can still regulate how much insulin you're injecting yourself, so don't give up. And never take from the doctor that this is not a reversible disease. It gets harder as you progress, but it's reversible. All those things I showed you are reversible. So if you look at our modern hunter-gatherer farmers, they eat foods that are low in calories, that happen to be nutrient dense. And they're eating fewer calories not because they're starving themselves, but because they're eating in a way that is energy dense, nutrition dense, and it's going to it's going to lean muscle compartments, your muscle, your brain, and your body's satiated. So just by design, you're eating less calories. Where you look at our European counterparts, they eat a lot of calories and very little nutritional value. And we in America do the same thing, again, because we're so fixated on calories as a number, we're ignoring completely the quality of the calories we're consuming. And so we overeat. But again, it's not your fault. It's biochemical. You can't change that. So the issue and what we have to do is get the insulin level down. So beverages, you've got to eliminate all sweetened beverages, or at least make them a very rare occurrence. There's just no room, or very little room in the human diet for sweetened beverages. And yes, I mean the zero-calorie stuff too. One of you can ask about that in the Q&A if you'd like. Food, yeah, of course, avoid junk food, right? Avoid added sugars wherever possible. Be careful, most people don't get this, but white flour is the exact same as sugar. You literally could have a bowl of cornflakes with no sugar added, a bowl of sugar with no cornflakes added. It's the same thing metabolically. I know they taste different, but below the neck, they're exactly the same. I got that off that movie Fed Up, by the way. Don't forget the fiber. Fiber is super protective. It really blunts the insulin response of the food you eat. So fiber is so important. Don't ever let anyone tell you it's unimportant because it's not digested. It is extremely important. Soluble and insoluble fiber. So basically, you want to eat real food. Processed stuff is stripped of its fiber. It's not healthy. Exercise, age-appropriate exercise, of course. Spend at least 20 minutes a day sweating if you can. It's okay, I'm not asking you to go to T25, P90X3 and all that. If you're older, focus on balance. Focus on stretching, because after all, some people are just one fall away from a hip fracture that's going to be their last hospital stay. So for my 70-plus-year-olds who just should be focusing maybe on balance and stretching, I suggest Tai Chi, which has a lot of medical data, or restorative yoga is another excellent one. So there's no excuse not to exercise throughout your life. And you don't have to do it for hours on end. 20 minutes a day is enough. And the last one is psychosocial. You have to make sure you're getting your sleep, or you're going to get cravings. People who work night shift are notorious for this. We're not nocturnal creatures, so I don't care what the boss says. We're not meant to be up at nighttime. And also exercise regularly. Both these things can help reduce endogenous cortisol, which is your stress hormone. So sometimes it's not what you're eating, but sometimes it's what's eating you. And you have to take care of that in your own way. So let's go back to beverages here. So eliminate sweetened beverages. That includes all the stuff you see listed there. Neo Drops, Crystal Light. Understand that most abused sugars in the American food supply today are high fructose corn syrup, followed by sucrose, also known as table sugar or just plain sugar on the ingredients. Don't let labels fool you into thinking, oh, there's no high fructose corn syrup in here, and you turn around and you see sucrose. Or it might just say sugar or table sugar. It's the same thing metabolically. And then watch the artificial sweeteners. All right, aspartame, saccharin, sucralose. These things are inherently fattening and worsen diabetes. I don't care what diabetes cookbooks you guys use. It has Splenda in it. I'm telling you, look to see who made that book. I'm sure it was from the food industry in some way. Case in point, Crisco. Remember Crisco from years and years ago? Came in that futuristic kind of wrapping foil, right? That single-handedly killed more than 40, 50 million people over the years because of all the trans fat that was in it. And you think one night someone apologized? No, they just slowly removed it. And even though we have 20 years of data, the government finally said, oh yeah, you probably should not eat too much trans fat. Very soft, and that was 2005. We had 25 years of data on that. So don't wait for policy to be perfect, because they're always behind the medical literature by at least 2 decades, if not more. Okay. The food pyramid. That's a great disaster. So they're the drinks, and they're the things you have to watch out for. No sweet beverages, okay? But don't worry, I'm not a guy of just don'ts. This is not a pool. These are not just a bunch of rules of knots. I'll tell you what you can do. Before I do, know that it's not just beverages. Artificial sweeteners are in 80% of all the grocery store items, hiding, making you unaware. So some people don't like the taste of water. When I hear those people, I think, man, how far gone is their palate that they don't even like water, the thing that you're mostly made out of. And that's okay. You don't like water? Well, consider putting some fruit and letting it soak in there naturally. It beats vitamin water, that's for sure. Look at the difference in sugar content per serving. I hope vitamin water is tasty, because it's definitely not healthy for you. Herbal water, hint, Metro Mint. and Wata, it's marketed for kids. These are all fine. They're not sodas, they're not carbonated, they're just flavored waters. If you can't give up soda, well, guess what? You're more addicted to the carbonation than you are the taste. So consider a flavored sparkling or seltzer water. Polar, that's my favorite, but that's not everyone's favorite. There's S. Pellegrino. One of the nurse practitioners I work at the heart group loves Perrier. I don't like Perrier, but you know what? It doesn't matter. I stick my Polish sticks with Perrier. La Croix, you have Hint Fizz, and then lastly Schweppes. Schweppes, I know for a fact, because I shop over at Stouffer's. Schweppes is cheaper than soda. If you drink fruit juice, I don't know who started this, but fruit juice is not healthy. It's not natural. You can go to an apple orchard, an orange juice orchard, right? You'll see, apples or orange orchards, you will see apples and oranges. You won't see apple juice and orange juice. That's made by some guy in a factory. And look at the content difference. Basically, fruit juice, I don't care how 100% natural, whatever it is, it's just drinking the sugar of the fruit without any of its protective fiber. All right? God kind of wrapped the poison with the antidote here. So fruit is absolutely safe, but fruit juice is not. And I didn't pick like the worst juices I could find, by the way. I picked 3 juices here that are all endorsed by the American Heart Association. That's pomegranate juice, orange juice, apple juice. All right? What else is safe to drink? Well, coffee and hot tea. When I first came back to the area, I'm from here originally, and when I joined the heart group July of last year, I was astounded how many people drink green tea, and then I forgot in my years away at schooling, they're drinking Arizona green tea or Turkey Hill green tea. It's not like hot green tea. So yeah, I was duped for the first month. Milk, preferably organic. If you're going to drink cow's milk, or consider a milk alternative. Unsweetened iced tea. If you have to use a non-nutrient sweetener, stick to stevia or Truvia. At least they come from a plant. They're not some synthetically lab-derived chemicals that we have no long-term data on. And then alcohol, not the best strategy for weight loss, but you can keep it to a drink a day. That's fine. I put them in order of preference. I'd much rather you have hard liquor than beer. So, real food. Junk is still junk, even if it's less junky. You have to understand, any farmer would agree with me when I say there's no money being made in selling you real food, natural food, broccoli, butter, eggs. There's no money in that. They have to dress it up. They've got to take it, make it better, add value, whether it's in the form of novelty, convenience, or just some false health claims. They add some of the stuff back. You know, look at milk. There's not vitamin A and D in milk naturally. There's some guy adding it in afterward. So that's why we have now a food culture where Cherry 7-Up is enriched with antioxidants. Honey Nut Cheerios is now a heart-healthy snack. Fruity Pebbles, Cocoa Pebbles is gluten-free. Fruit Loops is full of whole grain and fiber. Frosted Mini Wheats is clinically shown to increase attentiveness by 20% in school kids. And then Cocoa Krispies. Did you know that Cocoa Krispies, eating a bowl a day, can boost your immune system by 25%? It's all hogwash. Don't believe this is all processed junk. And there's so much of it in the grocery store. Lying to you. Stick to the natural ingredients. The more they dress it up and add value, the less nutritious it is. So what is processed food? Well, it's convenience food, right? Think about packaged things, boxes, cans, bags. But what the food industry promises you is not what they deliver. Longer shelf life means they remove the fiber and probably add trans fat. Tastes great. That means sugar and or salt was added. And if it's low in fat, a lot more sugar was added. Okay? If you take a food substance and strip all the fat out, it will taste like nothing. It tastes like cardboard. You never buy it in the grocery store. You say, I'm going to cook at home. This is for the birds. So what do? Well, they figured out that, hey, sugar is a 100% fat-free product. I could slap a fat-free label around a Domino sugar bag. And you can even look at the nutrition facts there. There's no fat in it. But it's unbelievably misleading. If you eat this stuff day in and day out, it's nothing but fattening and causes diabetes and cancer and all that bad stuff I talked about. The big 8, I call them. And we don't even realize how much of it we're consuming and how much is safe. The American Heart Association says men 9 teaspoons a day, women 6, children 3 to 8. So let's just take the guy, okay? I know there's not, well, you know what, you're all women here, let's do the women. 6 teaspoons of sugar, added sugar a day. So fruit doesn't count in this, so don't worry about that. Added sugar, let's take a look. 6 a day. Whole Honey Nut Cheerios with some skim milk. A slice of whole wheat toast, gotta be whole wheat, right? 8 ounces of organic orange juice, as if organic or non-organic matters in fruit juice. You already had 10 teaspoons for breakfast. Had nothing else yet. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich, 2 slices of white bread, a Yoplait light strawberry yogurt, and a can of Coke. Stack on another 19 teaspoons. You're already well over 3 times your sugar allotment, added sugar allotment for the day, and you haven't had dinner or any snacks in between. And forget about it if you're drinking sweetened beverages. All right? This is how much we're consuming and we don't even realize it. 1 15.2 fluid ounce Minute Maid apple juice is the sugar equivalent of 25 Dunkin' Donuts munchkins. 1 15.2 fluid ounce bottle of Minute Maid orange juice. Not that I'm picking on Minute Maid, I'm just making it for a good slide. Not 1, but 4 cups of Kellogg's Fruit Loop cereal. All right? Can you see how this builds up? Chronic disease doesn't happen in one meal, so don't strike me as the all or none guy. So if you ever see me at Dunkin' Donuts get half a dozen munchkins, you think, oh, so Dr. Wenger did it. You know what? It's to be enjoyed occasionally, so we have to respect its power. All right? So what's real food? It has abundance of fiber, it's colorful, it's perishable. After all, if your body's just from mouth to the rear end is just colonies of bacteria, how do you expect it to break it down if it can sit on the shelf and outlast you in a nuclear war? Down in the periphery of the grocery store, as one patient of mine pointed out the other day, well, ice cream's in the periphery of the grocery store, Dr. Wenger. I said, you're right, you're smart. Very few ingredients, contains no added sugars, and food that's actually being grown. So when it comes to food, eat vegetables. And I put that over fruits. Don't just eat fruit all day. All right? You should have at least 2 more servings of vegetables each day than fruit. And with vegetables, the darker the green, the better. In a world where we're paying by weight on a salad, go for the spinach. Paying for iceberg lettuce is like paying for ice cubes. It makes no sense. You're wasting your money. You're not going to be full. You need to increase your calcium. I'll tell you what, broccoli and kale has much more calcium in them than milk. So don't think you need milk. We're the only species that drinks the milk of another species, by the way. And in calves, it's growth formula. So consider that when you pour it over your cereal. Trying to lose weight? Well, avoid the starchy vegetables, the corn, the peas, the potatoes. Fruits, stick to the berries if you'd like. They are the healthiest fruit. They have the most fiber, least amount of sugar, and then the tropical fruits are the least healthy. So eat them seasonally. Grains. Here's my big rule. And it's more stringent than the grocery store rule. For every 10 grams of total carbs, there has to be at least 1 gram of fiber. And don't round down. This is an absolute rule, all right? And it works. Look at Cocoa Puffs. It says whole grain, but then you look, 23 grams of total carbs. It should then have at least 2.3 grams of fiber. It doesn't. That's 1. It's not a whole grain. It's lime. Banana Nut Cheerios, same thing. And ironically, about the same nutritional content as Cocoa Puffs. So don't be deceived. Again, it doesn't have 2.3 grams of fiber. Then here's a cereal. It has 38 total carbs. It should have at least 3.8 fiber, right? It has 10. And it almost has triple. That is a whole grain cereal. That's Uncle Sam's Toasted Oats, by the way. Protein. You don't have to be vegetarian, although most of your diet should be plant-based. If you're going to eat meat, there's nothing wrong with that, but stick to real meat. Don't do the corn-fed beef. Go for grass-fed or don't go for it at all. It's worth the extra money. Country Meadows is a great farm over at Central Market that does all grass-fed beef. Do free-range chicken, poultry, etc. Salmon. Do wild-caught salmon. You don't want to eat salmon that's been fed dog food, corn, or chicken poop all its life. So do wild-caught or don't do it at all. And then legumes, lentils, beans of all different types. Avoid trans fats. They are the devil of fat. Okay, there's nothing healthy about them. Avoid them like the plague. And then lastly, good fats, extra virgin olive oil, plant-based foods like avocado, nuts, and then a bunch of different seeds. And then the salmon or any of the other ones that are enriched with omega-3 and have little to no mercury. And then miscellaneous, basically condiments and dressings. There are healthy ones out there, but most of the time you're best off just making it at home so you know exactly what's in it. So my final advice is this: eat real food, focus on quality, not quantity. And in fact, you can eat as much as you want. That's why my patients tend to love me. I don't put them on calorie restriction. You restrict your calories, you're going to be tired all the time. You won't go to exercise, and exercise is very important. Keep introducing natural, real foods and let them naturally crowd out the bad. You can't do this overnight. Don't go home and raid your shelves and just go to the grocery store and get all new food. It's never going to take because you have to change your palate. You have to change your craving. If you don't, this is going to be as temporary as the diet that people profess to be on. Respect the power of sugar, but still treat it as one pleasure in life. So you can enjoy it, okay? I'm not an all-or-none guy, but you have to have limits. And know that the days that you eat that cupcake or piece of cake, how you're going to feel later that day. I would love for all of you to experience that once in your lives, to eat healthy and clean for several days, like at least 5 days in a row, and then go back and eat the junk and see how bad you feel. Most people never feel that way because they always feel bad. They don't realize how much better they can actually feel outside of weight loss and all the other chronic diseases. And then lastly, put a positive spin on it. When you look at something that's unhealthy for you, don't say, I want it, but I can't have it. Change it to, I can have it, but I don't want it. It's a world of difference to spin it in a positive light. And with that, I'll close and entertain any questions. There's my information. I gave you my email there too, and the office phone number if you have any nutrition questions.